Hi!
Hey.
Welcome to episode 69 of The Corner of Knit and Tea. I'm Laura, also known as Fluffy K on Ravelry and Fluffy Kira on Instagram and Twitter. And I've got a guest today. This is Liz.
Also known as Liz FM on Ravelry and Liz Farley Metzger, I think, on Instagram, and I don't know what I am on Twitter. I don't know.
And she's the travel correspondent on Come Knit With Us.
Yes.
So, and as we did earlier this past year, I had thought it was around Christmas time, but it was when you came back in March.
Oh, in March. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so Liz lives in northern Kansas-ish.
In the middle of nowhere.
It's like 100 miles door to door from my house to hers. But I invited myself over today.
This is good.
So we're hanging out and knitting, and I thought we'd do a little episode while we're here.
If you hear cursing or muffled yelling in the background, my brother is in the other room watching football, and to say he is wrapped up in fantasy football is quite the understatement. So occasionally you might hear a curse or, that's my guy! So that's David watching football.
Well, and the thing that amuses me is that I must be a friend of the family now, because last time when I wanted to come up on a Sunday, Liz's dad was like, oh, we're going to watch football. I don't think she should come on Sunday. I think she should come on Saturday. And so Liz said, my dad kind of wanted to know if you could come on Saturday instead. And I was like, oh, sure, no problem. And this year she was like, come on Sunday, no problem.
Well, this year there's the all-important Jayhawk basketball game on Saturday.
Oh,
but,
of course. So
Sunday
there's
I
things
knew
to choose between.
They were going to be in there on Sunday, and this is going to be fine. So he's not here anyway. He's at bingo.
So today we are drinking Santa's Cookie from Tea Time Scottsdale. This is actually something that Liz brought me last year for Christmas, and it's delicious, and I had a little bit left, so I brought it. And we made it in R2T2. I'm going to go get, or do you want to get R2T2?
I will go get him.
R2T2 was a Christmas present that Liz got from her brother, and he is a beautiful 36-ounce teapot. So we have lots of tea to drink today.
Boy, there's a glare.
Yes, there is. We're in front of the kitchen windows, and it lights us beautifully, but the glare from it, it's okay. It's the best podcast spot.
This also came with R2T2.
This is the Death Star
it's a Death Star.
steeper.
I don't know if you can see the
no, but it does have the Death Star.
And there's a little TIE fighter on the end. So
awesome.
That came with it.
So that is what we're drinking today, because we couldn't podcast without tea. And that is so good.
Oh, it is good. I didn't get any of that this year. I haven't been to Scottsdale in a while.
Well, and I could have brought the Christmas blend that you gave me from it. There's a tea shop up in St. Joe, which is not too far from where we are. And Liz graciously brought me some tea, and I can't wait to try it. It smelled good. I was like, which do I bring? Which do I bring? So, usually I start off with finished objects. Do you have one you want to show?
I have finished objects.
Yay!
Socks. These it's Desert Vista Dye Works, and it is sort of her colorway, You're a Mean One, but it's a second. I actually got it at her house when she had an open house.
It's very cool. I actually knit a pair of the socks with the regular colorway, and you can definitely tell that the green and the red are much more muted on this one, but it's really interesting looking.
So it's just, my basic socks with Fish Lips Kiss Heel, and I named it He Himself Carved the Roast Beast, which is my name for the project on Ravelry. Am I hearing things, or did my brother just say, hey, Liz?
I didn't hear it.
Okay, well, that's the only finished object.
He'll be in for a guest spot if he needs something.
Yes, I did. Just a second. What?
So I will show you what I have been working on. I bought shortly before Christmas Juniper Moon Farms, which is Juniper Moon Sheep Shop on Etsy, started selling little figurines that they sold to benefit Heifer International. And you could order a bunch of different kinds of animals. They were laser cut, and they did little wood alpacas and little sheep in a couple different sizes, and little rabbits. I was talking about Juniper Moon Farm.
Oh, yeah.
They sold all these little laser cut wood figurines, and you could buy a flock. And so I bought a flock of alpaca, and I got 10 alpaca. And then Susan B. Anderson designed little sweaters to go on all of the animals, and she called it a tiny flock of sweaters for good.
Aw.
And the pattern is it's a freebie. It's on her website, and so I didn't have time before Christmas, but I had bought a whole batch of them thinking that they would be like good knit group presents, and went through and pulled out all my old scraps of hand spun and ended up doing little sweaters for my alpaca. These are actually the socks that I'm knitting right now. I had a little bit left over from the first ball.
That looked familiar.
Yep. And then this is the leftovers from the sweater that I knit recently. And this is leftovers from the bunnies that I knit recently. One of them for my friend who had twins, and actually she had them yesterday. And this is something actually that someone spun for me. Ooh, it's really glaring, but it's pink and like a turquoise. And then this, I made a hot water bottle cozy out of that earlier this year and had just a little bit left. And this is some Southern Cross fiber that I spun up for a cowl. So I have like this whole flock of alpacas now, and they're so fun. Anyway, so I'm going to take them to my knit group this week and let everyone pick one. And I'm going to let Liz pick one before I leave. And I have a couple more at home. And I have a couple more at home, and I have to remember to keep one for myself because that would just be silly if I didn't do that. And so that is basically my finished objects for the week. I actually, let's see, I finished it last week after I podcasted. I knit a charity hat for the VA, but I didn't bring it with me. So I will maybe show that next week, or maybe I won't show that. So, I don't know.
He was hollering to tell me that my phone was going off. I forgot to turn the sound off on my phone. And Steven was like, your train whistle is going off, which means my husband was texting me. So I just put him on mute.
You can tell him I'm busy. I'm podcasting now. I'll talk to you later. So the other thing that I'm super excited about, and I haven't done it yet, is that when we end up sitting and chatting, I'll actually be able to knit on my own podcast. I don't normally knit on the podcast because there's only one of me, and so I'm showing things and holding things, and so yeah. So I guess we both have a couple works in progress. So I will show my first one, and then I'll let you show yours. And I just lost a bag, so I'll have to go bag down. So I'll have to go get that. I didn't bring my sock blockers, but I finished my first hand-spun sock this week. This is just my standard toe-up sock pattern, although this time I actually did do a heel flap and gusset. I found Fish Lips Kiss heels. I love doing them, and I think they're super, super easy, and they're kind of my favorite for stripes. They don't fit quite as well as I would like them to sometimes, so I decided to do toe-up heel gusset, and I kind of used David Schultz's toe-up sock recipe. That's a great recipe, particularly for handspun, because it has you do like a little gauge swatch and then gives you all the numbers for your sock.
That's cool.
And it's basically a basic toe-up with heel gusset sock, but you can, and I didn't swatch, I just kind of started.
I've done Wendy Johnson's toe-up. Whenever I knit the first time with a new yarn,
yes,
I always do a toe up, but Fish Lips seems to fit me okay. The only concern I have with heels like that is whether or not the back will wear, because it's not double thick, and I'm always
exactly.
like, well, is it not going to wear as well as a gusset heel, as the flap? But I don't know. I haven't worn my socks enough yet for that to be an issue.
I don't really.
So.
I've gotten a few holes before, but I've never really worn anything out. Like either there's been like a little defect in the yarn, or something snagged, or yeah. And so I fixed some socks, but I've never actually. Well, okay, I lie. I wore one pair out, and they were the very first pair of socks that I knit. And after 10 years, they had so many spots in them that were getting so close to bald that I finally just threw them away because it was like all over the whole foot.
You didn't frame them?
No. So, and I'm on the second sock, and I am right at the, I've done the gusset and the turn, so now I'm doing the back and forth to do the heel flap. and I will have a lot of knitting time this week. I'm going to be sadly, I'm going to be at the hospital waiting for someone having a procedure this week, so I figure this is probably going to be my main project while I'm at the hospital, and I probably will be able to finish the sock.
Well, considering you were at the heel turn at knit night the other night and you just had cast it on.
Right, yeah. Well, okay, I have tiny feet. Liz
She does
hates
have
me because I have tiny feet. I have
Very
size
tiny
6.5 feet. These are also, they're hand spun, and they're really probably sport weight socks, so I'm only using 48 stitches around, so, because they're thick, and it's Shetland, so they're not super rough, but they're going to be like sturdy socks. And I also find that sometimes my hand spun doesn't have, particularly when I spin it in rougher fibers like Shetland or my last Pales Corriedale, they don't have as much springiness as some of the sock yarns in Superwash Merino and stuff. So I knit them fairly true to size, and they don't do a lot of stretching and snugging and those kinds of things. So I've only noticed that mostly with my hand spun. Anyway, so that's on track to, I hope, finish this week. And I did these, I spun the yarn, and then I'm knitting the socks as part of the fall into winter cowl, which is Rachel Welford Pearls. She does the Woolen Spinning podcast, and then it's also part of Kate's group, who's the Stitch Addiction.
Kate's doing the January sock. No.
She was doing something else too. I don't remember. But this one was for there are so many knit-alongs.
So many knit-alongs.
And basically, if I have a project that kind of fits into them, I try and double and triple and quadruple dip. And this is my stashing all the way. I decided these were my Christmas Eve cast-on socks, which is why I left them in my stashing all the way bag, because it's almost time to put the Christmas bags away for another year. But I was like, my Christmas Eve cast-on can go in here.
Yes.
So what are you working on?
I am working on the world's biggest socks. Well, maybe they're not the world's biggest socks. They just feel like the world's biggest socks. So my brother, in addition to being a massive football fan, and he's just a massive sports fan. He's a sports guy. Loves the KU Jayhawks. And so he has been making little comments lately about how he hasn't gotten anything knitted. Dad got a hat because
he wore it like a side hat.
Yes, he wore it like a side hat. If you have heard the story of the little girl who's a friend of the family, she's like, "How does Google not know what a side hat was?" And I'm like, "Honey, I think the term you need is beret." But
side hat.
So now it's a side hat. So anyhow, David had been.
And she actually didn't knit her dad a beret, but he kind of put it on sideways so that they could take pictures together.
Yeah, so if you look at my project page on Ravelry with the little side hat that I did end up knitting for the little girl that's the friend of ours family's, she and Dad have their pictures together with their side hats, and Dad's wearing his regular stocking cap on the side.
But so David was upset.
So David didn't get, David has made rumbling noises lately. And so I'm like, okay, well, I know how to put the Q-itis on this. I'll say, well, we could always go to Lawrence, Kansas, to the yarn barn, because Lawrence is where Kansas University is. And I'm like, surely they will have KU colors, thinking that as soon as my dad and my brother heard, oh, well, we could always go, to a yarn store, they would be like, no, that's fine. But my bluff got called.
They went to the yarn store. And actually, if you look at Liz's feed on Instagram, there's a photograph of the men in the yarn store.
Yeah, and we met Kate and Charlie, which was great. But, so anyway, the original plan was a pair of DK or worsted weight socks for David, because I figured, well, I could do that, because he has size 13 feet. And yeah, he's 6'4", and his head is 23 inches around, and he has size 13 feet. So we were looking, I pulled all the yarns that were in KU type colors, and I'd called him in from wherever he was shopping looking at sports memorabilia. I'm like, you got to come pick these colors out, because I'm not doing it. So he's looking, it's, oh no, that's too purple, that's too,
I just screwed up that row.
Aw.
Probably shouldn't be knitting
and,
colorwork while podcasting.
and podcasting and talking. So he's like, well, that's good. Those two together are good. Well, it's the mountain colors barefoot. So I'm like, okay, fine. I will knit you
It's
a
beautiful,
pair
though.
of fingering weight socks.
It's
I don't
beautiful,
know. Yeah,
though.
I think they're showing up pretty well. Yeah,
although
the colors are gorgeous.
You could fit a small baby in
Yeah,
that.
that's like his
seriously.
baby hat
Kimmy Knits
size.
calls them toe beanies. This is like a beanie. It's like a baby beanie toe.
So that's the blue, which is their
Hashtag
blue
baby
color.
beanie.
Hashtag baby beanie. Hashtag enormous freaking socks. And then that's the red.
Did you say you're like at something like 80 stitches on there?
90. Because they're on size zeros. And they are, I mean, they're not tight. I don't like my socks tight. Because the size 0 was the only sock that I had. The sock weight needles.
With you.
Needle is the word I'm looking for. This is the only needles I had with me because I didn't bring that much.
She didn't anticipate
I
she'd
did not
be knitting
anticipate
Bigfoot socks.
Yeah, I didn't. And barefoot, yes, big. It should be Bigfoot. So, so I have this going, and then because I wanted something that would actually get done the last week that I'm here, I've got another project. So, you want to talk about something that you're doing, and then I can show yet another.
Well, so
project.
we'll go into the hat section of the podcast.
The hat section of the podcast.
So I've had a little bout of catatonitis. And there are like a million things that I want to knit, and I kind of want to knit them all right now. And so the last week or two, I've spent a lot of time thinking about some colorwork things and like pulling things out of the stash and pulling more things out of the stash and ransacking the stash. And Wes thinks I'm crazy, but I've been looking for some colorwork stuff. The first thing that I wanted to do was I've heard it called Babel and I've heard it called Bobble Hat. By Donna Smith. Exactly. And it was the free pattern for, I think it was Shetland Wool Week.
Yeah.
And it is a super, super cute hat with sheepies.
It is adorable.
So I agonized over my color selection. And as it turns out, I had 2 skeins of Plucky in the stash. I'm using fingering weight held double. So the bottom is Plucky Primo, which it's a merino cashmere nylon, and it's really nice. And it's in this purple that's called Baroque. And then the top is actually Traveler, which technically is sport weight, but I think it's about the same as fingering weight. And it is in the Ogre colorway, and it is kind of an acidy green, which the colors are coming across as pretty true here. So I still have a ways to go on that one. And then for the white and black, I had some Knit Picks palette, so I'm holding it doubled because it's less important to me what the little sheepy are and whatever. And I actually messed up on one of the charts because I wasn't paying enough attention while we were watching a stupid movie last night. But I don't care because I have little sheepies. So, and I'm following the mods made by Susan B. Anderson because I have a small head, and small head, small feet, you know.
She's generally a tiny person.
I'm only 5'2". 5'3", really, but who's counting? Anyway, and I tried it on last night, and it's a little bit tight, so I'm hoping with a good steam blocking, it will open up just a bit, and then actually because I'm holding it doubled and whatnot, I'm going to have leftovers. So I've kind of started to think about whether or not I might mock up mittens in fingering weight with the sheepy, basically the same,
cute.
Yeah, just to match, because I have the other halves of these skeins, and I was thinking maybe I wouldn't do it doubled, but the stitch count for the chart works as such that if I did the right number of stitches on the mittens, I could repeat the chart. And right, so I'm thinking about mocking that up, but right now I'm just working on the hat because I have a million other things that I want to do this month. So that is the hat that I'm working on. Back to you.
To me.
Back to you.
I have multiple projects. I am not used to this. Clearly.
Liz is typically a very monogamous knitter.
Usually I have the traveling sock and then
something lace or, yeah.
But as I said, I figured I should get my brother something or make my brother something that I could have done this week. So
I also have to say that the state rivalry here is KU versus K-State.
It is.
And she's knitting in raucously KU colors, and my husband went to K-State, so I have to, not that I'm like really into it, but I was always a part of the UCLA-USC rivalry in Los Angeles because my parents went to UCLA and I went to USC, and so I come from a mixed family. So I understand the deep-seated rivalry, and so I have to say that I can't, that these items are guest items on the podcast, and they do not reflect the views of the podcast owner. And all opinions reflected in this podcast are the property of me or Liz, and I won't say that she holds the wrong opinions, but
well, I went to neither school, so I
neither did I. Yeah, that's the funny thing. Like, I really, and my husband could like really care less.
Yeah. Well, my husband, it's one of K-State's many nicknames, Kansas State University in Manhattan, Kansas, the Little Apple, is Silo Tech, because it's the ag school.
It's Kansas. The big ag school.
It's a very big ag school. My niece is going there. My husband's sister's daughter is a sophomore there. So there's a lot of family, you know. David isn't really the only KU fan in my family. I like both schools. I'm happy for either of them to win. K-State did not do well yesterday.
No, unfortunately they did not. We were actually in a bar watching that. And we're like sports people. There is not a sports bone in my body. Really my big sports, go sports, is
sports ball,
Tour de Fleece, and I do watch the Tour de France while we play along at home, and I can kind of get psyched up for the Royals.
Yeah. World Series. There are many World Series things in this. Did you see all of his? He's got all the baubles.
I didn't.
He has a bauble shrine. You need to check out the baubles.
I got my World Series shirt for Christmas from my mother-in-law, so I now have 2 Royals shirts because I'm a fair weather fan, and I joined last year right before the World Series when we unfortunately didn't win, and then this year I was like, we're gonna do it, and
we
now
did.
I'm back to sports. The Chiefs are playing. That's our football team, and they're playing this afternoon at 3. And they did get into the playoffs, which I only know because the signs have been everywhere.
This is the first year that the Chiefs and the Royals have both been in the playoffs. Of course, the Royals went all the way and won the World Series. Yay! But I doubt.
And the Super Bowl is going to be the Patriots versus somebody. Because
my brother thinks it'll be the Patriots versus the Arizona Cardinals because he likes the Arizona Cardinals this year.
I will root for whoever's playing the Patriots.
Yeah. Pretty much. Or the Cowboys.
This is not a sports podcast, I guarantee you.
I always said, because I grew up on the Kansas-Nebraska border, and Nebraska football fans are a special kind of crazy. I don't know if you run into them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always said in college football, my favorite teams were KU, K-State, although KU doesn't really have a football team, and whoever's playing the Huskers. So, and we used to live in Omaha, and we still cheered for whoever was playing the Huskers. It kind of made us unpopular.
I have an ex who went there for med school, and like now everything that he ever posts is all about the Huskers, and I'm like, eh.
He went to University of Nebraska for med school?
Well, I think it was like University of Nebraska and Creighton. I think they work together or something because they're in Omaha.
Because I used to work. That's where I worked when I lived in Omaha. I worked at the med school.
Yeah, my ex from high school is, honest to God, a brain surgeon.
You went to Nebraska? Are you kidding me?
And part of me is like, wow, that's so cool. And part of me is like, I really hope I don't fall and hit my head anywhere. Because I'm not sure if I could handle coming to the guy who used to like to blow things up in chemistry lab in high school. I mean, I'm sure he's a good doctor, but I'm like, I hope I don't wake up one day and have him mucking around in my brain. Like that just doesn't seem like a good idea.
No. So this is going to be it's going to be a colorwork hat. I've never done colorwork before.
Yay, colorwork!
Mostly I'm attracted to cables and lace more than color work. Although there are some things I want to knit that hat. I also want to knit the sheep hide or hide or however you pronounce that. That's got all the sheepies on it.
Is that a cake shape?
I don't know who knit it, but I know I like it.
That's the one with all the
way
sheep in the natural colors.
That's all the sheep in the natural colors.
Yeah, and it's kind of is it almost like a boxy hat? Like
it's got several rows, like a couple, 3 rows of sheep. It's not just
right.
one.
Well, but I mean, then it's got kind of a, like almost a, not I-cord, but like a little like rim
something
of
or
some
rim around
sort,
the top.
and then it comes into like a.
It's more of a flat top.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's a cool looking hat. And honestly, I am so enjoying this one. I could knit more of these. Well, and actually, I would say this seems like it would be a very good color work project for someone learning color work, because the so the section where it's like sort of snow or the white, like that's a very easy kind of, you alternate each stitch and stuff, and the only difficult part where you would have floats is behind the sheep and stuff. So it's kind of I think it would be a good learning project on your tension, just because there isn't a ton of color work.
Yeah, just enough.
There's enough to keep it interesting, but I mean, like the first part when I knit all the ribbing, I was just like endless ribbing. But of course, you're used to that. You're doing a big head hat.
Ribbing.
Big head.
Which I did stick on his head, and it does fit.
Awesome.
120 stitches of Cascade 220. FYI, if you ever decide, because I came home from the yarn barn and I thought, if I'm doing this in color work, it better not run, and so I just left all the stuff in the skein and just dumped it in straight vinegar to make sure that it wasn't going to run. Well, it didn't occur to me that perhaps I knew enough to check the fingering weight yarns to make sure that they were tied up, and I thought, oh, Cascade 220. No.
Oh no.
It only had one tie on it.
So this evening on the episode of The Yarn Whisperer. Now what is
2 hours later, yeah.
What is the red one? It feels different.
Barocco, it's Barocco Ultimate Alpaca or something.
Oh, okay.
It did not bloom nearly as much. See, the Cascade 220 bloomed quite a bit when I soaked it and dried it, but this did not. But I think it'll be
soft.
okay.
It'll be nice.
Yeah,
it'll be a good warm hat.
I'm just gonna have like some diamond shaped transitions in when I get down to where I think I need to change colors, and then the top of the hat will be red. And I've threatened to put a pom pom on it, but somebody does not think that a pom pom would be a very masculine.
I was gonna say I can
have.
see how Dave wouldn't really be a pom pom guy.
I think it would look cute.
Well, it's so funny because I'm making this one, and this is totally gonna have the biggest.
A pom-pom, yeah.
This is gonna have the biggest ass pom pom. Ass on the podcast. You can't take me anywhere.
No. Well.
Okay, so I guess I have one final project in progress, and that is I started the New Year's Day cast on with Wool Diaries, who's Sally, and Pink Hair Girl Knits, who's also Sally. She's Sally Jane. And this is in my Kimmy Knits mustache. So I actually have 2 mustache themed bags.
I didn't realize you had both.
You didn't know? Well, this one did not come from Kimmy.
Yeah,
Kimmy.
I know.
I always want to call her Kimmy because it's Kimmy Knits, but it's really Kim, so... So I decided, remember I told you I was going to do the Vita shawl by Mina, Mina Phillip, Mina Makes, and I showed you this is Tosh Merino Light in the Mirth colorway, and then I also have the Mica colorway to do the edging.
That's
gorgeous.
Yeah,
so I cast on and I did the first couple charts. I still have a number of repeats of this chart, and it's a lot of repeats, because by the time I get to, I'm making the big shawl, which is 1,200 yards, so it's going to be huge and warm and cuddly around my neck during the winter, but by the time I get done, I'm going to have almost 400 stitches on the needle. So, but this is the beginnings of it, and it's got a center section of some really pretty lace weight, and then the side sections are stockinette, and I'm not going to talk too much about about it because I don't want to give the pattern away. It's a paid pattern. You can actually do it in 2 sizes. She's got one basically where you can use 2 skeins of fingering weight, where the body of the shawl is 1 skein of the fingering weight, and then you use the contrasting color for the lace edging. Or you can supersize it, which is what I'm doing, and I have 2 for the body and then 1 for the lace edging.
That is so pretty.
And I have a big thing for big shawls that I can just wrap right here in winter, and particularly I find I've done a couple in Malabrigo lace weight and some in Tosh Merino light, and I really like the singles because I feel like they trap pockets of air and it gets so warm. And on the days when it's like 0 degrees,
it's cold here.
Yeah, we actually live in the cold. Liz does not. She lives where the fire burns. Phoenix ashes rising from the sun.
Yeah.
I know it's Tempe, but
Same
anyway,
thing.
so this is my 3rd, and I want to actually finish it by the end of the month, so I need to get a move on. But I got distracted by a hat and my socks. So I mean, I'm hoping the hat I might even finish tonight, depending on how knitting time goes. And I figure I'm taking the socks with me to the hospital this week, and those will get finished, and then I'll probably settle in and work on the lace. And that's my plan, mostly for the rest of the month. I need to knit one more hat, which is just going to be a plain hat. It's going to be a charity hat for the VA. So those are my plans for this month. And then I also I have a cousin who's expecting a little baby girl, and I thought she was due in April, and she's actually due in February. Oops. So I wound up a ball of sock yarn. It's super pretty. I didn't bring it, but I will put pictures of it on my Instagram. It's called Wild Orchid. It's one of those splotchy skeins. I decided to try Barenwool. I think it's Barenwola or something like that. She's a German dyer, and it's kind of a light, I think it's a white base, but it might be a little bit gray, and then it's got splotches of like bright orchidy purple and then little splotches of yellow and green. And I'm thinking about doing a wee Liesel from Isolde because I had bought that pattern, and it's like the little feather and fan lace sweater because I thought as a baby sweater that would just be really sweet for a girl. So that's the only other thing that I might try and squeeze into this month, but if it laps over into next month, that's okay. And the astute of you will notice that I do not seem to be working on my mother's mittens. That's in there too somewhere. I finished the first one, lining it all, and actually last night, 2 nights ago, I knit the cuff of the second one, but I'm kind of procrastinating because I'm procrastinating by doing other things because it's color work and it's kind of slow, and that in particular. So I love the mittens, but it's a reknit because the first pair got eaten by moths, and I kind of didn't want to have to knit it again. I mean, I'm not.
What happened to I want to knit another pair of these when you were knitting the first one? Didn't you say that?
Well, that was years ago though. That was before I.
No, I thought it was just recently. You're like, I kind of want to knit another pair of lined mittens. Maybe not that.
Well, okay.
Maybe not that pattern.
Yes, I do. So I would love a pair of lined mittens because
this is the danger of having a guest on your podcast who watches your podcast. She says, "Wait a minute."
Yes, she calls you on your bullshit. No, I do want a pair of lined mittens because it's been really cold, and all I've been thinking about is, ooh, I want some lined mittens. But now I'm knitting Colorwork mittens, and they're lined, so it's like knitting 4 mittens, and it's a slog. And I love my mom, and I'm not upset. Like, I'm upset that the mittens got eaten, but I'm not, like, angry. It just, that happens. Like, that's a hazard of wool, and, you know, but I just, like, I didn't want to have to reknit them right away, and she's going to Chicago in end of February, so I need to be done with them soon, and so, yeah. So, and really, I just want to knit all the things.
Too bad we all have to have jobs and lives and things.
To pay for this hobby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have one last poor little sad project that was supposed to be done in this trip.
Well, you got distracted by socks.
Yeah,
and
well,
hats.
I got distracted by socks and a hat. This was going to be done. This is in a color that Laura will approve.
Ooh.
I don't know if it's showing up. No, it's showing up blue.
It's a dark purple.
Yeah, it's K-State purple.
Yeah, it's like a bright royal purple, but but I find the camera has trouble with colors like that.
I've
It
never
is
been able to
beautiful.
successfully.
What is this one?
This is...
I'm sure I've known, but...
Oh... Mystic Supernova.
Liz is a master lace knitter. You will have seen some of that if you have gone to, if you have seen some of the Come Knit With Us. Oh, so this is a half pie?
No, it's a full, but it's a cape.
Full. Okay, I see.
So,
it's just gorgeous.
I've got like 3 rows. Of course, there's like a billion stitches on there.
I know, but it's just gorgeous.
That's the needle there. See all those stitches? Look at all these stitches. It is a 50/50 merino lace weight that was on a cone we went to the yarn store in Prescott, Arizona.
It's yummy.
And I just said, give me like 1,800 or however many yards of that.
Right.
And she did. She balled it up off the cone. It was really inexpensive too, which was nice.
Nice.
Because, you know, it takes a lot of yards to do. I want something that will hit me like down here. And I like pie shawls, but to wear them you have to double them up.
You have to fold them in half, yes.
Yeah, you lose the length.
Yeah, there are several patterns where they kind of just take the chunk out the middle and make it like a cape. And that's a great idea.
And I don't mind purling back. I'm not one of those knitters that thinks purling is the devil's stitch.
Oh, I'll be honest. I like the purling rows on lace because it's a resting row, and it's like you spend all your time trying to make sure you're exactly on count, and then you get a little break to kind of just mindlessly purl. So you only have 3 rows left of the entire thing?
And a knitted on edging.
Oh, okay. So you're not quite.
It's not like a day's worth of knitting.
You totally wanted to finish this.
I was gonna be done. So.
Well, you could probably knock out the 3 rows tonight while all the football and yelling.
Well, maybe it takes like at least an hour to do a row.
Mm-hmm.
And I could, but mostly the way that I do things, if I've got something that I need to get done like this, like the hat that needs to be done before I leave, I think I will bust this out and I will try to get as much done. I want to get the socks to at least the heel turn and up so that David can try them on, because there's no way I'm knitting the hat socks and 2 socks by the time I leave next week.
You also don't want to not try the sock on him because you don't want to spend all that time knitting socks that don't fit. That would just be...
Yeah. I mean, I know they're going to be a little loose on him, but I'm fairly sure at some point in their existence they will make a trip through the washer, because this is Bachelor Central. My dad and my brother lived together in the house that I grew up in. So...
It makes me laugh. There's pretty much only paper plates. And so I came over and Liz generously fed me homemade pizza for lunch, which was super yummy. And she took plates out of the cabinet, like real actual plates. And her brother was like, we're eating on plates. Because he expected paper plates.
There's no dishwasher in this house is the problem. There's never has been a Well, there was a dishwasher. There used to be a dishwasher that sat there, which you notice is across the room from...
That's very bizarre.
It was a one you had to pull across the room.
Yeah.
And so, because Mom always had carpet in her kitchen, which, yes, is weird. There used to be carpet in every single room in this house. There is carpet in the kitchen. There's still carpet in the kitchen. There's no longer carpet in the bathroom since, it's basically a locker room now. But she didn't like pulling the dishwasher across the room and plugging it in, so she never used it. All she ever used it for was to store stuff. I think probably that dishwasher got turned on, if it got turned on a half a dozen times in its entire life. That was a lot. So anyway, I don't mind cooking, but
that actually makes me
laugh
not
fond of
because my grandmother used to use the oven for storage. Like, she cooked a lot, but she also lived in a beach house, so she used to use the oven for storage. And it always used to make me laugh when you'd show up at her house and, like, there'd be crackers in the oven and cookies and, just all kinds of stuff.
Well, there are lots and lots of cabinets in this kitchen. That whole wall is all cabinets. But the actual things like canned goods and stuff for now, everything is all out. So that, A, you can see it, and B, you can tell, like, I don't put stuff in the cabinets anymore because stuff goes in the cabinets, and 5 years later, you're like, what is that bubbling?
Yeah, Liz said that she came home and went to the market, and her brother was like, I always love it when you come home because there's food.
There's food in the refrigerator.
I should say that her brother is like around 40.
He's in his 40s, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, this
45.
this isn't like a teenager who.
No.
No.
Well, he is kind of like a teenager.
Well, okay, yes.
Never been married, never had kids. Yeah, still. He does do things like he takes out the trash without being asked.
He shoveled the walk when it snowed.
When it snowed, yeah.
Yeah, no,
He does stuff like that.
I'm not trying to malign him. This amuses me greatly. So, since you are nearing the end of your lace shawl, do you know what you're gonna knit next?
Another lace shawl.
Well, yes, but I was looking for a little more than that. If you knew,
I do. Is it the Romy Hill shawl? I've kind of blocked it out of my memory though. I think it's going to be a Romy Hill shawl next.
Okay. Well, yeah, because I have.
I've got a whole bunch of her stuff set up.
This one, and then I have the Duchess of.
Oh, Duchess of Devonshire.
Yes. And I bought some West Yorkshire Spinners yarn for that.
Oh, that'll be cool.
So, and I bought it in, I decided to try a not very me colorway. So I bought it from the Spice series, and I think it's either cayenne or cumin. It's like orangey. It's really pretty,
oh, yeah.
but it's not a color that I would normally get. But I was like, I have so many shawls in the colors that I would normally get, so I'm gonna be bold and try something different. And honestly, I figure if it ends up not being me, then I will find a lovely knitter to bestow it upon, and I will enjoy knitting it. So that's really all that.
I have that queued up too, and I got. I ordered some. Oh gosh, Gnome Acres. That's the name of the dyer.
Oh.
I've never had any of her yarn before, and I fell in love with the Birdie Bots beans, multicolored.
Ooh.
And so she's got a set that you get the Birdie Bots beans, and then you get like it's actually I think meant for like the toe, heel, and cuff. But it's in a like a tonal solid to match. And
so you'll do the different sections and different.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the is it garter or stockinette? Anyhow, I'm gonna do the
I can't remember
non-lace section in the Birdie Bots beans color.
Awesome.
And then I'm gonna do the lace section in the solid. I think that'll be pretty. It'll be very, very bright.
But that's fun. That's gonna be fun. Well, and so the other thing, and everyone's laughing at me, and I'm sure Liz will give a good giggle here as I start. So the other thing that I'm thinking about doing this year is for the first couple months, I'm going to try not to buy more yarn. And
how often do we all say that?
And I'm playing in the Harry Potter House Cup, and I'm playing... so it's my friend Anna, who's Sugaroni and the Well-Appointed Desk, and she plays for Ravenclaw, and a year or two ago, they did something that they called Stash Term. And Stash Term, all the letters are written in capitals, and the deal is that every project that you do has to be from Stash.
Oh.
Which, okay, now I saw the most recent episode of the Expat podcast with Mina, and she made a comment that, like, she doesn't really understand that because as soon as you buy yarn, it goes into the stash. So like,
right, that's a good
yeah,
point.
right, yeah. So, but my thought is that, like, if I say after January 1st I'm not buying more stuff, then anything that came before January 1st is stash. And right. So, and as always, there are a couple exceptions. I'm in a couple fiber clubs, and I'm not going to give those up for this period of time. And my plan is not to go no-buy all year. The deal is that I'm actually going to be going to a bunch of events this year. Our local knitting guild has its convention, and our featured speaker is Stephanie.
Yes.
Pearl McPhee, the Yarn
I'd
Harlot.
love to come to that.
And we'll have a vendor market, and that's at the beginning of April. And then I'm also going to the Flyaway Spinning Retreat at the end of April, which is here in Kansas City. And they're going to have a huge vendor market. And then the big thing is that a couple of us are trying to go to Rhinebeck this year. And so my thought is that, like, I'm not going to try and go no buy all year. I'm going to try and not buy all the time randomly a skein of this and a skein of that, and I'm going to try and save my funds, and then when I go to these events, I'm going to buy a sweater quantity. I'm going to buy
Yeah.
something that then I can make something with that feels commemorative to me. Or places where I'm going to see dyers that don't sell online
Yeah.
so much, or mostly go to festivals, or I've never really gotten to touch and see before. So my plan is to try and make January through March stash term and knit from stash. And truthfully, so this plucky yarn I've had in the stash for at least a couple of years. And then the Tosh Merino Light, at least the 2 skeins of Mirth that I'm using as the main color, I get those. Well, okay, I got them back when the Tosh Merino Light skeins were 440 yards, which is easily 3 or 4 years ago. So I've had them forever and been saving them for the right project.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to try and do a little bit more of that this year. And then the other crafting resolution, is that I have a lot of things that I really, really want to knit for myself. So
Yeah.
I have a feeling this might be a little bit of a selfish year. Now, I'm still definitely going to do a charity hat a month because I feel like that's a good thing to do, but it's also something that I can usually whip out in a couple days.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like it's going to take away from my wanting to do some projects. I haven't done lace in a few years, and I'd really like to do a little bit more. And of course, I want to do a couple sweaters and socks, and then I think about gift knitting. And so my other thing is that I think about gift knitting because there's so many things I want to make, but I can't wear them all. So part of me thinks I'm just going to knit whatever I want this year, and then come the end of the year, I'm going to pick out some of the things to give as gifts.
Yeah, that's what I do. I know I've said this on Sam and Kim's podcast, but I knit almost everything with the exception of KU hats and socks. Almost everything I knit, I originally knit for me, but of course you don't wear everything. It doesn't always turn out. I mean, not that there's something wrong with it, but it's maybe not quite as big as you thought. This is the thing, because I always want something. I want big, like generous size shawls and stuff.
Or it's not the color you
Or
want,
it's
or
not,
it's not the style.
you just don't end up wearing it for whatever reason. You end up going to some other item that is to wear in your cabinet. And so what I do is I go through, when I come back every year, I go through my drawers of hand knit stuff, and if there's stuff that I have not worn or that I don't wear that often that I think my mother-in-law or sister-in-law or niece or somebody would like, then I give that to them, so I get the joy of knitting it for myself. And then, hey, it's a gift. Yay, done. It's already done, and I can just give it away, and it's fine.
Well, I'm thinking about that this year because I went through my queue, and my queue is 18 pages long, which is probably I can't remember, it was 25 per page, is it? So it's almost 500?
Yeah.
And there's so many things that I want to knit, and things even that I kind of want to knit multiples of in hand spun or whatever, but I can only wear so much, and I have so many things already. So I was thinking, like I said, that I'd probably just knit what I wanted to this year, and then at the end of the year, a bunch of it will probably end up being gifts.
Yeah. My queue is only 2 pages long, but it's also stuff that's it's matched with the yarn, and I know I'm gonna.
And you're
knit
I will be knitting this. This is the order.
The queue. Yeah, I fudge things around a little bit. I try to. Part of my problem is that I live in Phoenix, and it's just too hot. I don't need more than 1 or 2 or maybe 3 worsted weight sweaters. It just doesn't get and stay that cold, and so I knit lighter weight stuff, and I knit bigger things because A, I'm bigger, and B, I like the bigger, like the big lace weight shawls that are 1,500, 1,800 yards, and so it's slow. I only get 3 or 4 great big projects done a year, so it takes me a long time to work through stuff. So, I have stash. I've only got 2 boxes of stash, but that's several years worth of knitting.
Right. Well, and I have just so many things I'm dying to do, and actually part of this stash term idea came about because I have I've started to put some things in project bags, and I have the pattern, and I have the yarn, and I have the needles, and I'm basically kitting them up, and I have like 6 months worth of stuff that I want to knit, like where I already have the yarn, the pattern, and the needles.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to buy anything, and I'm like, I can't just keep. I mean, because my weakness is a pretty skein of sock yarn or a pretty braid of fiber, and I can't tell you how many single things I have. It's scary. I have a room.
Is it the room of shame, like Kim?
I don't know if it's quite the same level of shame as Kim's, and I don't have any fabric, but I have fiber and yarn. It's very funny because so my grandmother was a knitter, and she was. I always think of her as a little bit of. Well, I think of it as a Renaissance woman. I suppose that's supposed to be like completely well-rounded. My grandmother was an artist and a dabbler, and like loved everything. She had a couple floor looms. She did tapestries.
Oh, wow.
She did rugs. I know she painted and sculpted and drew. And my uncle has told me that he remembers her having a spinning wheel when he was young, but I don't remember that by the time I came along. So she must have just dabbled in it and decided it wasn't for her. And she's the one who taught me to knit. But in the house they had when I was growing up, the basement they had this 3-story house near the beach, and the entire basement floor was divided in half. And one half was a workshop for my grandfather, and the other half was where the floor loom sat, and it was like a whole room of yarn piled high with a full walk-in closet piled high.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, and a lot of what she had was like cones and things for tapestry weaving, but she also had this huge stash, and they went on couple trips around the world, and she always brought back yarn from different places and stuff. So I mean, it was some amazing stuff, and sadly I've turned into her a little bit, because so I'm not a person.
You say that as if it's a bad thing.
Well, I'm not a person who tends to collect or hoard or really amass stuff. I mean, like, I don't have collections. I mean, I don't collect stamps. I don't even really collect. I mean, I kind of have a mug collection, but I mean, I don't really collect except in yarn and fiber, and it's embarrassing. It's I mean, because like, and I was okay for a while. I mean, I always kind of had a stash, but when I moved to Kansas and I finally got a job, it took me a while. I followed my husband here, and then when I finally got a job here and we had a double income, it was like one of the worst things that could ever happen to my stash room, because all of a sudden we had a lot of disposable income and I could buy. And whereas like once I would have agonized over $100 yarn purchase for a sweater, like, and it would have taken me a couple weeks to work up the nerve to like bite the bullet. Now it's amazing how easily I'm like, ooh, yes, that.
Sure. And this.
And so I'm hoping maybe this year I'll curb that a little bit, because I have so, and I always tell my husband I'm saving for retirement so that I have a stash when I retire, and we have fixed income. That's a real thing. But I also feel like I could catch up a little bit.
Well, you do sell your hand spun, so it's not like all your hand spun stays
Well, and
forever.
I was gonna say that
you don't run a no-kill yarn shop.
No. And I was gonna say that so a lot of those single braids that I buy turn into single skeins to be sold in the shop, and honestly, there's a lot that I want to spin. That I don't necessarily have a plan to knit. So, I mean, like, I do have certain braids that I'm saving for certain purposes, or I've bought, like, a sweater quantity of fiber to spin for, but a lot of my single braids are just marked for, I'll spin them up whenever I want, and pop them up in the shop, or sell them at the local sale, and...
Or, you skein, do them as sock yarn, spin them as sock yarn and make socks out of them.
Well, and I've started doing that on some of so the other realization I came to this year, it only took me like 5 years of spinning, is that I don't really enjoy rough fibers. And like a lot of the longer wools and more of the outerwear wools, and some of them, like Shetland or Corriedale, if it's soft enough, I like spinning them up into like durable socks. But a lot of them, I've decided that I'm just going to sell them because I don't enjoy spinning them, and a lot of people don't enjoy buying them because they're not very soft. So, I don't know. Anyway, It's like 53 minutes into the podcast, and we've yacked quite a bit, so I suppose we should let the people go.
We should probably. I do have to show them, though, speaking of handspun.
Oh, okay.
She gave me a skein of handspun for Christmas!
So Liz showed up Wednesday night at our knit night, and she showed up with a present. And I had forgotten that every time we meet up, we show up with a present.
Well, last year you gave me that gorgeous, gorgeous lace weight. I was like,
yes.
I need to buy you more things.
Yeah. Yeah, no. No, but I went home and I looked through, and that's not shop stash. That was actually skeins that I had put aside that I thought I would use one day.
It's gorgeous.
And went through and found something in your colors.
You definitely did that.
Anyway, thank you for joining us and listening to us. And this has been super fun. We'll try and do this maybe once a year, and I'll just invite myself over and we'll do our annual, like New Year's podcast or something. So I hope you had a wonderful New Year. Oh, I almost forgot. We're not done yet.
Oh, yeah.
I promised that this episode, and thank you for those of you who have hung in here just waiting to hear this, I promised that this episode I would announce the winners of the gift cow.
Yeah, all of you who are sitting at home thinking, oh, will you just shut up?
Yeah, would you please just announce the winners? And actually, I will post in the thread and hot link everyone this evening when this goes up, so you'll be able to find out even if you don't watch the podcast. But if you were tuning in to see us and watch us talk and to find out if you won, we had 179 entries.
Oh, wow.
There were 179 posts. The first one was me. So I ran 2 through 179. The first prize is a beautiful shawl pin and stitch markers that was donated by Drew at Mission Knit Possible. And
Hi, Drew!
Yay! Hi, Drew! And he is at Mission Knit Possible Creations. However, he sent those to me. So the winner of that is Emil Carve 1963. Yay, Amelia! Yay. So please just PM me your address on Rivalry and I will get those out to you. That was post number 45. The second winner is the winner of the Teacup Project bag that was donated to me by Knit and Stitch Bits. She's in Australia and she does lovely bags, and actually this is one of her bags, and she had posted it and I posted about how cute the fabric was, and she actually pulled it from the shop and mailed it to me with the other one that she mailed for prize.
Darling.
So thank you so much. It's a lovely bag and I can't wait to put more projects in here this year. But she makes beautiful bags. The winner of that is post 176, which is Malon B. M-A-L-O-N. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Malon, please contact me on Ravelry. Send me your address and I will get your project bag out to you. The third prize is a skein from Nomadic Yarns. It is a self-striping sock yarn in When You Play the Game of Thrones colorway. And that one is donated by me. That is post number 22, Linda Dawn 64. Yay, Linda! So Linda, please contact me and I will get that out to you. The final 3 winners, I just decided to draw for a few Ravelry patterns, so please PM me your choice of Ravelry pattern. I will go up to $10 per pattern. And the winner is post 113, Kay Zollner, which is Kelly, 117, Beauty and the Sheep, which is Carrie, and 147, Miata Mimi, and your name is listed as L on Ravelry. So will the 3 of you please PM me your choice in pattern, and I will send that off to you. So Thank you for joining me on a marathon podcast. I promise next week we'll be back to a little bit shorter, and I hope you have a wonderful New Year.
Happy New Year!
Bye! Bye.